Hello, this is Dr. Rosie Kuhn, and this podcast series is called Aging Like a Guru Who Me. So this Tuesday past, we had an aging group, and there's about 12 of us that meet, and we've been meeting for 2.5 years, and which is pretty remarkable for people who are aging. And I'm one of the youngest in my late 60s, and then there's people in their 70s and their 80s. So that's really remarkable that we can all get ourselves to a meeting every other week for an hour and a half. It takes discipline and commitment to do that. And love, a lot of love. We have such a wonderful time together. So Frances came, and again, let me remind you that any name I use is just, I made up the name to protect the person's confidentiality. Anyway, Frances comes in, and Frances is, as always, very torn, and she's challenged by her own lack of discipline. That's what she says. It's like, I have no discipline, and that's why my life is a mess, and that's why things are the way they are, and that's why, and then she fills in the blank. And this time, rather than, what we usually do, I said, okay, Frances, so you say you have no discipline, but how did you get to this meeting? And how do you get here every single meeting time on time? How do you put your shoes on, your socks on, your underwear on? How do you make sure that that's all in alignment before you go out the door? How do you get to all of the places that you volunteer at and stay and be there for them? How do you do all of that? Now, I'm shortening this conversation because we don't have, half an hour to talk about it. And she was like questioning and confused, a little bit disoriented. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, you believe you have no discipline, like zero zilch. And yet, what's the degree of discipline it requires to get your socks on the shoes on your right feet, your clothes on, and, warm clothes when you need to? How do you get that? What's the discipline level that gets you prepared to go out the door? What's the discipline level to get you to every meeting and commitment that you want to get to? So everybody in the room was very attuned to this conversation, because what we're used to doing is to basically nullify any value or any worth or any positivity, any good stuff that we're doing, and we only see the negative. So it's, I never this and I'm always that, in terms of reality. And what I mean by that is our consensus reality tells us that basically our consensus reality is fear-based, scarcity-based, and shame-based, which means we're not allowed to think or know ourselves to be really great people. We have to kind of focus on our lack and where we should be afraid. Like, the world is not safe for us. We're not safe in the world. And basically, the world tells us, if you look at the news, it says you are not safe. And if you look at the economic situation or environmentals, there's scarcity. And you are lack whatever it is, competence, value, worth, to have the kind of life you really want. This is the message that we're given constantly, while at the same time, if we're listening to our spiritual gurus and we're listening to our people who are giving us wisdom, maybe we go to church or spiritual groups, is there spiritual wisdom and spiritual principles that says, hey, you're whole, that you lack nothing, and you have no reason to be afraid. So we're in this pattern, this dilemma of, should I be afraid or not? Am I whole? Am I great? Am I a good person, or am I not? It's like an either or, as opposed to seeing the greatness that we are, and we see where we can lack. So back to Frances, it's like Frances has an incredible amount of discipline and commitment to the things that she's committed to, and she gets to what she wants to get to. And like all of us, things don't get done where we lack commitment, basically. And we're not disciplined to get things done that we don't want to get done. I haven't vacuumed for weeks in my house because it's not a high priority for me. And I go every day, oh my God, you should vacuum. But I don't. And I will when I do. So the point is that we focus on what's wrong and what's not working as opposed to what does work. And we're raised this way from the time we're little kids to be afraid that we're doing something wrong that is going to come down on us in some way. So I grew up Catholic, and any of you who are listening know that raised Catholic means that when you're about 7 years old, you learn to go to confession and you learn to say, Father, I have sinned. My last confession was, and then you say a bunch of things that are sins and what you were wrong, and you're admitting that you were wrong. So I'm laughing because it's like I had to make things up because I didn't see where I was 7 years old. Like, what? Come on. So I'd say I talked in church twice. I disobeyed my mom, 4 times. And then the priest would say, okay, here's your acts of, in a sense, punishment, which is to pray and ask for forgiveness. What if instead of that, what if I went to church and was able to say, hey, Father, here's the cool things that I've been doing. Here's the way that I've been acting in alignment with spiritual principles and in alignment with what I know is my natural expression of self. I painted and I played and I sang and I went for a walk in nature and listened to the sounds and I watched a thunderstorm. I turned the radio off and I turned the TV off and I watched the thunder and the lightning, and it was wonderful. And I've been more clear with who I am, and I've forgiven myself and have so much more compassion for who I am. Like, what if I said that? What if we had an opportunity to say, here's what's working. Here's how things are going that are great and makes me happy and fulfilled. And that the priest or the minister or our great friends or even our husbands or partners or wives say, hey, I so appreciate the work that you're doing in becoming who you are, the fullest expression of yourself. Wouldn't that be great? And that would give each of us, in a sense, a leg up on how to think positively about ourselves and not be in such scarcity and fear that we're constantly going to be rejected or thrown out or humiliated. That's such an old paradigm, and it's so in every cell of our being. It's really, really challenging. So the intention of this particular podcast is to be curious about what's the degree to which you be in negativity, in worry, in that you're unsafe or that you're not enough. How often do you have a thought that is in alignment with that, as opposed to thoughts of, wow, I'm laughing because it's so absurd for us to think and even say something positive for ourselves. I've been having a few aches and pains in my body, and anytime I have an ache and pain, I think it's cancer. And then I go, oh my God, it's cancer. And then I go into this whole negativity element of what's going to happen. And basically I go into a place of I am disempowered and I'm a victim to this disease. And last night I caught myself and went, wait a minute, you don't even know if you have cancer. Why are you spending hours and days and years of your life worrying? And the point and the fact of the matter is I have, continually been able to heal cancer myself and other diseases and other elements of life. I am empowered to do that. I'm not a victim to my reality. That was really fascinating to watch myself do that, because it's like, okay, that makes sense on a spiritual level. But what about, the truth and again, going back into the fear-based, scarcity-based, lack-based, shame-based. I'm not enough. So who am I to cure myself? Kelly Turner wrote a book called Radical Remission, and she talks about the ways that people heal themselves. And I'm so into that in terms of, hey, whether I've got cancer or not, here are some great ways to be in the world so that I can be whole as I can be. So again, the point of this is notice how often you're giving yourself acknowledgments. You're acknowledging how you're doing well in your life. Notice and acknowledge where you're courageous. Notice where you're taking steps to expand your abilities to do things, whether it's an art focus or music focus or educational or love or commitment with your kids? Where are you actually stretching yourself? Where are you loving yourself? Where are you honoring yourself with something that's good? Where are you able to say, okay, I forgive you because you didn't know any better in the past. You didn't know. Jesus said a long time ago, well, he was hanging on the cross and he said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. And I say that a lot to myself. Like, I didn't know how to do it differently. And other people doing what they do, they don't know. They don't know how to do it differently. So forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive yourself, for you know not what you're doing. You're learning, and this is what it's about. Well, that's a lot to be with, and I'm going to end on that note. I would love to hear from you. Aging Like a Guru Facebook page. It would be great to have you join there and leave comments, and or if you'd like to be interviewed, that would be great. I just did an interview with Mike Bosworth and Jennifer Lair on their marriage. So be happy to hear from you if you're interested in something like that. Otherwise, stay tuned. Talk to you soon. Big hugs. Bye for now.